Welcome to Norse Code, the number one podcast for your Minnesota Vikings. I'm your host with the moster, Dusty O'Connell, joining you for a preview of what will likely be the Vikings' greatest victory in football history, and their first victory at the newly minted U.S. Bank Stadium. Joining me, as per usual, is a writer for Cold Omaha and 1500 ESPN and numerous other sites on the internet. Useful human, Vikings blogger extraordinaire. You know him by many titles, but his name is Arif Hassan. How you doing, Arif?
I'm great, man. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. I got my Earl Grey tea here that I shall sip as though I were Kermit the Frog. Look across the top of the glass through the internet at our guest this week. Of course, it's a Packers game, so we had to bring on our both the MVP and LVP of Norse Code by turns. Justis Mosqueda. How you doing, Justis?
We're good. The brown Bradford's back.
I don't really know what that means.
Justis has a lot of energy. We'll hope to match his energy level.
This is going to be a fun one. I look forward to the festival of takes. Yeah, no. Before we dive in, though, I do want to take a moment to say thank you to Jeff Unz from San Jose, California. Sunny San Jose gives us a PayPal donation this week with the message, "Keep doing what you're doing. Lucky Jeff is my Daily Norseman handle, but I'm a big fan of your work." I don't know why that's exclusive. Go Purple, Jeff. Well, thank you, Jeff. Your contribution will give us 2 weeks of Norse Code service to everyone who listens. So thank you very much for that. And if you would like to, and by you I mean everyone else listening to the show, if you would like to contribute to the show to help, keep the lights on, keep our equipment working, and continue bringing our special brand of digital multimedia content to your earbuds or your AirPods, depending on if you are an iPhone 7 owner, although I hear those probably aren't shipping until November, then paypal.me is a place to go for a one-time donation in any amount you desire. Or if you want to be super cool, then you can become a recurring contributor at patreon.com in a monthly contribution of any amount that you would like. Of course, more is merrier, but we suggest about $3.50. Keep the old Loch Ness Monster at bay. So patreon.com/NorseCode is the place you can do that. And of course, paypal.me/NorseCode for a one-time contribution. Keep the show ad-free and keep, I guess, keep Teddy alive. He appears to be doing pretty well. He's convalescing nicely. But that is, of course, we have failed. Teddy is no longer alive. Spoons out for Teddy.
Spoons out for Ted.
However, the much more important task at hand is to preview the approaching game against our greatest nemesis, who is unaware that we are their greatest nemesis, the Green Bay Packers. And for that, we wanted to turn to take artist and Sam Bradford hit piece writer, Justis Mosqueda.
How we doing, guys? You guys holding up well? You guys got your little 1-0 start. You guys doing okay?
Those 1-0 start. I mean, y'all beat a worse AFC South team in the last minute, so I'm not so sure. Little 1-0 start.
Yeah, congratulations on
did you guys did your guys' offense even outscore their offense?
Does it matter?
Well, I mean, that's a team that's gone 3-13 and 2-14 the last 2 years.
Our defense handily outscored theirs and their offense.
Well, look. Here's the thing. Y'all get a little cocky about scoring 2 defensive touchdowns. Aaron Rodgers hasn't thrown a pick six since 2009, and he's thrown 1 in his entire career. So I don't know how much that's going to work.
You were complaining on Twitter about how Aaron Rodgers doesn't throw enough picks. So I'd chill on that. Anyway, you had something about Sam Bradford that you wanted to get off your chest. I don't know if I disagree. Maybe I agree, but not so enthusiastically as you seem to. So what do you have to say about Sam Bradford?
That move was really dumb. So basically, I mean, they traded those picks not only did they trade a first-round pick to the Eagles for Sam Bradford, who got Sam Bradford at the cost of a first-round or a second-round pick. I don't know how he went from a second-round value to a first-round value in that amount of time in Philadelphia. But they basically kind of like sold out on this like win now mentality. When like if you look at anyone who's posted like Vegas odds, like the Vikings weren't even like, I mean, there's like a 4% chance basically. And then it's just, I don't know, man. Like they're like less than 30% odds at even winning the NFC North. I just really don't like understand any of this, and then it never works out. Like even quarterbacks who are traded for first round picks like Carson Palmer and like Jay Cutler in the past, like that first year is a struggle. So it like doesn't even really make sense to sell yourself out.
Let's talk real quickly about Vegas odds. Obviously, I'm a noted critic of the Sam Bradford trade, so I don't want to like, misrepresent myself, but I do want to mention. The Vegas lines and what the bettors think about the Vikings have been at odds for a while. So people were hitting, the over on the Vikings' ability to win the division. So the 30% odds don't represent what the bettors think, which is actually a more accurate representation of like the predictive power of betting markets. The 9.5 win was not an accurate representation of what the bettors think. It was like negative 150 to bet on the over on negative and on 9.5. So I'm guessing the odds of the Vikings winning the division from the betting markets perspective was much higher than 30% or 9.5 wins or something like that. So I'm not so sure that's the best argument to go about it, but maybe a better argument would have been the change in wins from the Vikings in terms of Vegas odds. I don't know, man. It seems like the Vikings got better. I just don't know if the price was worth it. I mean, do you think it sounds like the Vikings may not have gotten better according to you? And I don't mean like better from Teddy to Bradford. I mean better from Hill to Bradford. You think that first year discount is big enough for that to not be true?
Well, like. This is the NFL. It's a market. Like everything is based on how much better you are as opposed to assets. Like you could say, I don't know, who's a quarterback who you guys would consider like barely better over like Sean Hill?
Barely better than Sean Hill? Well, besides Taylor Heineke, I'd say Mark Sanchez, right?
Okay, so like Mark Sanchez. So
he's the guy I've been going to.
Well, right? let's say Mark Sanchez, right? Let's say if you gave Mark Sanchez a $200 million contract. You could say, yeah, I mean, they got better, but I mean, I don't know how much better they got. They didn't get first round pick better from Sean Hill.
Okay, Sam Bradford. So that's
because Sam Bradford's not.
So that's the argument. At what point? So I don't know where you'd rank Sean Hill among quarterbacks, right? But for this exercise, like pick a number, I guess. At what point is a first round pick worth how many number of ranks in an upgrade? So let's say Sean Hill is like the 32nd best quarterback in the NFL, which is probably generous. At what point is a first-round pick worth it? If they get the 18th best, if they get the 17th best, they get the 15th best, the 14th? Like, at what point is that upgrade worth it? So first, rank Sean Hill, like, arbitrarily, just wherever you think he is. And second, tell us at what point a first-round pick is worth it for 2 years, assuming that, like, it's a 2-year contract and all that.
All right, first, this is kind of different, though, because is Teddy coming back or is Teddy dead?
I've been hearing that he's probably going to come back. I don't know, but it sounds like the prognosis for this sort of thing is really difficult to tell. We won't know probably for another 6 months whether or not his time frame is 1 year or 2 years or somewhere in between. But I mean, he's not like they don't have to amputate the legs. That's good news.
I don't know, man. This doesn't make very much sense to me.
Let's split the difference. Say it's a 1.5 year like recovery time frame. They have to put Teddy on IR at the beginning of the 2017 season. They'll bring him back from IR halfway through, and I don't play him immediately or something. I don't know.
It's not worth it. I mean, that's like a.
I'm saying it's not. What is worth it though? Like let's give
Sam Bradford like a fourth round pick.
Okay, so at what point is the upgrade worth it? So Sean Hill,
when you could make a title run. When you can make a title run if he's not going to be your long-term quarterback, and it doesn't sound like
quadrupled their title odds by signing Sam Bradford. They went from 0.5% to 2%.
From Sean Hill, but like their odds are still way worse than when they had Teddy Bridgewater.
Right. Okay, what odds percentage is good? How about that instead? What odds percentage increase is worth that first round pick?
I don't think the Vikings have a shot though. 2%. That's the big thing with me. Is like I don't see a way. I don't see a path to this team winning a Super Bowl. Just period.
I mean, like literally every team has a path. It's just about the odds percentage, right?
Statistically significant is 5%. They're under 5%, I think.
That's not how p-values work. But anyway,
I know. I'm aware.
If the Vikings were at 0.5% to win the Super Bowl, right? At what percentage is it worth a first-round pick? When they go from 0.5 to 4% to 5% to 8%, 12%?
To like 10 at least, something like that. It's got to be
32 teams. 10's a lot. How many teams have a 10% chance right now? 2?
Then don't use a first. How many teams use a first-round pick on Sam Bradford? Look.
Well, evidently a lot. At least 2.
That's fair, but at least the Eagles didn't make it 3, and that's where y'all messed up. Listen.
Okay, so if they had increased their odds from 0.5% to like 10%, that would have been worth it.
Yeah.
Do first round picks increase your winning odds by 9 percentage points?
I don't know, man. I think like this is more just about because first round picks you at least get them for 4 years, and then you hope you get that like 5th year option. And then you could get him on the second contract. Sam Bradford. So if Teddy Bridgewater comes back, Sam Bradford's worth a year and a half.
That's what we're splitting the difference. We're saying a year and a half.
So a year and a half of below average quarterback play is what you traded a first round pick for. That doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, over abysmal quarterback play. That's the
Then just take. There's no pride in not winning. There's no pride in finishing 8-8. 8-8 will get you fired in this league too. I don't know, man. Like if
let's ask Jeff Fisher about that.
Let's talk to Jeff Fisher for a second.
He's not going 8-8 this year. I promise.
Early Marvin Lewis. I don't know.
Well, the Bengals are just cheap.
Okay. No, that's true. They're just cheap. It's not really the same. Okay, well, cool. So that's where we are with Sam Bradford. What are your thoughts on, like, if you were to scout Sam Bradford and just tell us who he is, not how good he is, what are your thoughts on him?
I think he lacks a deep ball. That's the biggest thing for me. I don't know how you really,
this is interesting because this is like a point of contention among people. There are a lot of people who say he does have, deep passing accuracy. He just didn't throw it deep that often. I think like PFF last year had him at like 40%, but sample sizes, and he didn't throw it deep that often. Last year, he has like a higher average depth of target than Teddy, which is admittedly not that difficult to do.
Yeah.
Do you think he's got a poor deep ball, or do you think that the reason he didn't pass deep that often is because of his deep ball? Do you think that his St. Louis career proves that he doesn't have a deep ball? Why are you disagreeing with a lot of people on this deep ball thing?
Well, I don't think that those two things are completely separate. Like maybe he doesn't throw the deep ball because the offense is like, hey. The offensive coordinator is not structuring plays around his deep ball because he doesn't have a good deep ball. I think that's fine. I know I've had that conversation with Ryan Burns about quarterbacks, and he's like, we had a conversation about confidence in quarterbacks and like Dak Prescott, right? And it was like, man, this dude's kind of confident. And it's like, why is this dude wild confident when he's like a 4th-round pick? And his whole argument was like, quarterbacks who aren't confident for a reason. They aren't good enough. Like, there's a reason for that internal doubt to be there. I just don't think Sam Bradford's deep ball is very good. I mean, his ball placement could be erratic a little bit. I don't think he really has a cannon like a guy like Matthew Stafford, where like you could have erratic passing, ball placement, and you're still just putting the fear of God into those defensive backs because they know that thing could come humming at any point. Sam Bradford, really, to me, I mean, you want him to play like in a little West Coast offense like style. Little check down, like really, he's going to be a system quarterback, and I think that's going to be fine. Like the way that you look at how Teddy played, like you guys said, his yards, the depth of his targets weren't very far. I mean, outside of Diggs, do you guys really even have a receiver that you could throw deep to?
Adam Thielen, and this sounds like really dumb and weird, but Adam
Thielen. That's a fake name. That's a fake name.
It's real dude, man. He's going to start above Charles Johnson soon, and Laquan.
Did you say Charles Nelson? Charles Nelson, the little receiver.
Charles Johnson.
I thought you said Charles Nelson. I was like, the receiver for the Oregon Ducks? The Oregon Ducks?
The Oregon Ducks.
Who are going to lose to the Nebraska Cornhuskers this weekend? Yeah, man. Like, I don't know.
Thielen's dope. Assume he's like average at everything. That's not an accurate representation of who he is, but like, assume he's average at everything.
So how excited are you guys about Sam Bradford? Like, what are you guys' expectations for him?
This podcast stands in stark disagreement, and I shouldn't say this podcast. Dusty was more defensive of the trade than I was. I stand in stark disagreement with a lot of Vikings Twitter. I am not excited about him, but it's my duty to push back. I had to, man.
You got to.
It's my job. It's my job.
for like your self-sanity. So what do you guys think about this game this weekend, I guess? You guys ready for Sam Bradford to start? Because it sounds like Mike McCarthy is calling everyone's bluff and just saying that like Sam Bradford's starting this game.
Yeah, but Mularkey did that last week. He was like, Bradford's definitely going to start, but it doesn't matter. Then Sean Hill started, and it probably mattered. So, who knows? Like, maybe... the thing is, So I was ranting about how the Vikings were thinking about it in terms of house money. Like, oh, we got a bunch of extra picks so we can trade a pick. And I really hate that idea that, like, I'm calling it the house money fallacy because I can't think of what the actual fallacy is. It's the opposite of the sunk cost fallacy. And now I think people are thinking about this in terms of the sunk cost fallacy. Because they spent a first-round pick on Sam Bradford, they better start him as soon as possible in order to get a return on his value. Obviously, they should just start the quarterback that gives them the best chance to win. Right now, I think that's Sean Hill, even though Sam Bradford in vacuum is a much better quarterback than Sean Hill, because playbooks in the NFL are not easy. He's had 15 days with it. So I think they should start Sean Hill.
Yeah, we've seen this movie before.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, we remember what Carson Palmer looked like, right? And, like, Josh Freeman when he came in for, like, Indianapolis and all that. Like, this never goes over well, ever.
Examples into the dust. Let's actually talk about Jay Cutler, who did have an offseason, right? Did he have an offseason with the Bears?
He did, and it was the worst season that he's ever had other than his rookie year.
What other quarterback trades can you think of? Besides
that was it. I looked at first round trades, and the only guys that really were guys who came up were Jay Cutler and Carson Palmer. I wrote that in my piece for BleacherReport.com. It's a very nice site. You should go check that out.
We'll link it, man. Don't worry. Okay, so then there's two free agent things I can think of. Drew Brees, which doesn't count because he had a shoulder injury, and Peyton Manning, who had a good year, but I think if you compared his, 2010 and his 2013, 2012, you consider 2012 a down year, right?
Yeah, and it was still kind of like his offense, right? Like, whenever you have Peyton Manning, like, he's kind of the offense.
That's true, yeah, you're bringing his offense. You're not bringing the Sam Bradford offense. What would that look like?
I was going to say, I kind of have a question for you since you brought it up about, preparing for Sam Bradford and it being Sean Hill and that mattering against Tennessee. Like, what do you think are the real differences that you would scheme up if you're Dom Capers and Sean Hill?
No, it doesn't matter from a preparation perspective. It just mattered because Sean Hill didn't throw away the game.
Okay.
That's all I meant by that.
Okay, that makes more sense. I was going to say, if you're Dom Capers, what is the thing that Sam Bradford brings, or that Sean Hill brings to the table different than Sam Bradford that you're more afraid of, other than him just being generally better at things, like baseline better?
Yeah, schematically not schematically, I should say tactically, Sean Hill is actually a more aggressive quarterback. But that's about it. That's the only, and I don't know if I would change anything to account for the fact that he's a more aggressive quarterback. Maybe you cut underneath on those 12 to 15 yard outs more often. I don't know.
Yeah. And the thing about what makes if this is Bradford's first start, what can make it a complete just not a very good situation for him. I'm just trying to think of everything that can go wrong. And Capers is going to try to throw out the most complex blitzes you're ever going to see in the NFL at you all the time. And you're going to need to know where every single route is and be able to find your check down quick. The one thing that Jacksonville did to kind of negate that is when they were driving, they were going to no huddle. So it was making it harder for Capers to get in the personnel for certain blitz packages that he wanted, and made it harder for complex schemes to get called in the first place because you had to have everyone in on the same page. So I think if Minnesota really wants to kind of make it easy on Sam Bradford's life, and I know this kind of sounds weird, it's run the no huddle, try to run as many plays as possible.
I actually advocated that the Vikings make him the 2-minute quarterback for a while. He only needs to know 6 plays a week. He only, the system he's relatively comfortable with. You only need to get chunk plays, something that he's fine at. It's simple. So I wanted that. I think that's maybe a little bit too radical, but whatever. But right, they should. So here's so in terms of like easing Sam Bradford in, so the Vikings had Sam Bradford, whether or not it was a good move, that's in the past. In terms of easing him in, right? Like you want a simpler system, no huddle. You don't want that many sight adjustments from the receivers, otherwise he's going to throw picks. And you want, I don't know, maybe just always have a man beater on one side and a zone beater on the other side, and just make the decisions relatively easy for him, right? Like that's probably how you design that offense for the first couple of weeks.
Yeah, you use a lot of motion. Like really, it's just like go really fast, make things simple. Use a lot of motion so you can get better pre-snap looks. I wonder. I do wonder what
you Cliff Kingsbury.
Yeah, I mean, not too far from. I mean, basically, I mean, you like you said, you had 15 days with this dude. You're basically gonna have to run a college offense. I'm sorry, that's what you're gonna have to do. That's fine with me. It's just I wonder. So like Peterson, right? How's that gonna work? Like, do you run no huddle out of like from under center or out of the gun?
Well, okay, so that's actually a pretty interesting question. I think first that they should begin the process of alternating series between Peterson and McKinnon. Obviously, they cannot alternate plays in this no huddle plan, but you could have like 2 series of Peterson, 1 series of McKinnon. And I think that for right now, like, don't think about that. So Peterson in the shotgun last week was basically imperceptible to determine, how good he was because he had only a few shotgun snaps. One of them was very successful. The rest were not successful. I don't know if I'd blame him on the shotgun runs. Which again, I'm not like defending Peterson's performance. I think he has a lot to work on from that game. But I think the offensive line was a big problem. But in the no huddle, it's actually a lot easier to determine your running plays. I think that you can run, no huddle from either under center or shotgun, probably a lot more inside and outside zones. But yeah, so I think that with Peterson, I don't think you change too much, which is weird because like we've always talked on this podcast about how Peterson is oddly inflexible for such a talented player.
The one thing that I would say is like, if you're going out of the gun, the one thing is like, hey, Sam Bradford did get coached up by Chip Kelly at one point. This dude can run the option, and you can run the option out of the gun. And the Packers have been notably a horrible team defensively on trying to stop the option because they're so aggressive and everyone's just flying and there's no real help anywhere. Like it's basically that entire defense is kind of built in a way where it's like.
But can Peterson run the option?
It's just inside zone. I mean, it's inside zone out of the gun. I think he could do that. Shit, if he can't do that.
The only thing I'm worried about is that he grabs the ball during the mesh.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. You got a week to work on the mesh point, and as you guys saw against the Tennessee Titans, quarterbacks who kind of mess up that mesh point every once in a while, that can be devastating.
Yeah. Danielle Hunter was the benefactor of that. All right, so that's what you're doing with Sam Bradford. Tell us a little bit about the Packers. So first, I mean, they struggled for a while against the Jaguars. What's the deal?
Yeah, they still don't know what's going on offensively, man. To be completely honest, I mean, they were trying to get Jordy going. You could tell. They were trying to run a couple chemistry plays with him and Rodgers. I think a couple times they threw a couple like screen passes to him or like pseudo screen passes. Really, like, I don't know, man. That offense isn't going to be clicking like that until Jordy's back. I mean, a lot of it was they looked like who kind of they were last year, where it's like Aaron Rodgers doesn't see his guys open. He's going to end up scrambling. He's beating these defensive linemen, and then at some point he's going to find someone open and just like hit whoever, like a strong safety or a linebacker are on.
You think that like Rodgers will be like Roethlisberger for a couple of weeks?
I mean, basically. I mean, this is like, I don't know. Like, I think their offense looks a little better than they were last year, but like Jordy clearly isn't Jordy yet, and I don't know if it's just he's not going to be that again. Like Jordy Nelson's like 32 years old or something like that, and he's the highest paid player of his age, like not even close at his position. Like Jordy Nelson is a guy who we don't necessarily think of as old, but he's old. What's kind of weird to me though is that like, I really like this whole situation is going to end up being weird because it's going to be Cobb in the slot again, and then Devontae Adams every once in a while doing something crazy like that one catch he had for the touchdown. even though he dropped like 5 other plays, possible.
So like he wasn't. Was he good? Like that's
Devontae?
Was he good or was he lucky? Yeah.
Devontae was lucky on that one play. He was bad the rest of the game. But what kind of messed everything up too is they could have punched in 2 other touchdowns and they didn't. They were like 5 yards out from the end zone and they weren't able to punch in 2 touchdowns. So like their offense, you could see clearly where the offense has room to grow and where they can get back to their peak. But you also don't know if they can do that yet. So I don't know. Like it's a 1-game sample. I want to know. Like I feel like we'll know what we have in this offense by like October.
It's been like a long time to figure out if like the only good thing. But well, no, hold on. Not the only good thing about the Packers. You were surprised at how good the inside linebackers for the Packers were, but Sam Shields has a concussion. I still think that those 2 young defensive backs look like very young defensive backs. You got a defensive line. Like, what's the deal with Packers defense, real quick?
The Packers defense looks solid for some reason. Really, what Jacksonville should have been doing the entire time is just trying to wear out that defensive interior because the defensive linemen on the Packers are Mike Daniels, LaTroy Guion, and then after that, it's Kenny Clark, who's a first-round rookie. He's 20 years old. Dean Lowry, a 4th-round rookie. He's 21 years old. And Christian Ringo, who, like, before the last game, like, never really even played in an NFL game. And that's their entire...
Christian Ringo, is that the guy that ESPN thought was only a long snapper?
Yes. Yeah. He was that guy. Yo, out of one of the Louisiana schools. I forget which one it was. But, like, even at inside linebacker... The team has Jake Ryan, who was a 4th-round pick last year, Blake Martinez, who was a 4th-round pick this year, and Joe Thomas.
The other Joe Thomas. Yeah,
and the other Joe Thomas, who might actually be better than Jake Ryan, but that's a hot take for a different day. But, like, they literally have no depth on the defensive interior, like that interior triangle.
They've only got 3 inside linebackers. They put Clay back on the outside, right?
Yep. And then, they moved Dayton from DN to outside linebacker. But in the game, I mean, he's switching back and forth because they lack so many. They just don't have the bodies on the defensive line to like really rotate guys, and it's pretty clear that they don't trust like Christian Ringo, Kenny Clark, or Dean Lowry yet. So if you're gonna beat
Dean Lowry is a force player, right?
Indeed, he is. Yeah, I think Kenny Clark is too, but he's like interior defensive lineman. That's kind of different. Right. Dean Lowry was in the preseason. He looked really good as a 5 and a 6 tech. But the problem was, if you put him at 3, he's getting double teamed, and he's like 6'6", and he just pops right up and just gets driven 20 yards off the ball.
Okay, so in this hurry-up, no-huddle imagination offense that was constructed that the Vikings almost surely will not do, this is the weakness, right? Because not only does it maximize, what the Vikings get out of Sam Bradford, it also maximizes the problems that Green Bay will face because the defensive interior will be tired out. Especially a relatively thin one, relatively inexperienced one, the Packers putting forward, right?
Yeah, I mean, really, it's like I wouldn't be opposed to like if you can get Green Bay into like a base defense, like a true 3-4 with that type of personnel, just run it, just keep going, don't let them sub, like just keep going, and hopefully you guys have guys who are, I mean, a guy like McKinnon, like he could spread out, right? Like you guys could go into empty out of something like 11 personnel.
Yeah, McKinnon's lined up wide. He's lined up in the slot.
Yeah.
He started running routes instead of just now screens. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think you guys could like, I think if you guys go out like an 11 personnel, and for some reason they don't go into nickel or dime, that would be like a really good matchup that I would just keep trying to go no huddle. Like just literally don't let them sub.
Wait, is Aaron Rodgers still elite? That's 2 years, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. You guys are crazy, man. Y'all traded a first-round pick for Sam Bradford. Y'all can stop on this.
It's not about that. It's about Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers is still elite. Did you not see that pass?
Is he even good? Is he even good? I don't know. He wasn't good last year.
He's pretty garbage, man. Yeah, he's not a top 5. He's not a top 5 quarterback. Damn, we should probably trade him. We should look.
Yeah, you probably get the second, 3rd round pick.
Second, 3rd round pick, something. We just got to get someone to go down with an injury first. That's what we got to do. And then we got to free Hundley. That's what we got to do.
Yeah,
free Hundley and Joe Callahan.
Okay. Actually, direction. Joe Callahan. Is he garbage?
Yeah, I think so. But he's a third quarterback. Okay. He's supposed to be garbage. That's what he's supposed to do.
Yeah, okay. 4th and quarterback. Is he garbage?
Yeah, Joe Callahan had a couple passes like in the preseason, but a lot of them were like weird rollouts where it was like, you really don't have any idea what you're doing yet, huh? And yeah, if Joe Callahan starts a game, I'm probably gonna freak out. I just can't watch that because of anxiety purposes. It would be bad for my health.
But you've seen Scott Tolzien start games. You've seen Matt.
I've seen Seneca Wallace.
Yeah. I was about to mention Seneca Wallace. That was the punch. That was the kicker at the end. So, you've seen Seneca Wallace start games. Joe Callahan worse than Seneca Wallace?
I really hope. At least Seneca Wallace could run. Like Seneca, Madden legend Seneca Wallace. You guys got to remember that Green Bay brought in Vince Young that offseason too. Remember that?
Oh yeah.
Came in and hung out with Mike McCarthy.
And he was like, "Yeah, I'm finally ready to be with a championship caliber team." And then he's like,
"Yeah,
left.
Yep." And he was like, "I literally learned more under McCarthy than I did in 15 years under Jeff Fisher." And I was like, "Yeah." I mean, that checks out.
Okay, so Mike Zimmer defenses historically have been very effective at stopping Aaron Rodgers. A lot of it, he basically just steals from Dom Capers and then uses it against the Packers. Have you looked into this? Why is this the case? And do you expect this to continue to be the case?
Mike Zimmer.
Aaron Rodgers' worst games, 2011, was against the Bengals, I think.
I think. Well, one thing is the Bengals always usually have pretty, I think defense. Or at least the back seven guys, right? Or the back seven, whatever you want to call it. The non-line of scrimmage players on the defensive side. I think a lot of stuff in coverage is who your weak link is. And when you look at Cincinnati, the way that they're able to draft and develop guys is they don't have very many weak links. You know what I mean? But also, he's been kind of privileged with having really good defensive linemen. If it's not Geno Atkins and Carlos Dunlap and guys like that, then it's Linval Joseph and Everson Griffin now, right? So I think, and then now with guys like Anthony Barr, with a guy like Anthony Barr playing outside linebacker, it only makes sense that you run a bunch of stunts and a bunch of zone blitzes, right? And I think Harrison Smith is really good at disguising what the hell he's gonna do. He'll line up he's in cover 2, and then all of a sudden he's in cover 3, and he's he's halfway onto the sideline, and then now he's on the hash, and it's how the hell did this just happen? Or he'll show up in cover 2, and then now he's blitzing, and now he hit your quarterback, and it's dude, how the hell is he able to get in places so fast? This doesn't make sense. In the time that
you're getting over at Battle Red blog with the Texans, put a video together. And he comped Harrison Smith. I never made this comparison in my life, and it makes so much sense now. He comped him stylistically to Troy Polamalu.
Yeah, he's not far from that because he can get in spots so fast. He could be in the middle of the field, he could be on the side of a field, or he could be at the line of scrimmage, and it's that will happen literally as you're doing your cadence.
Yeah. So the Vikings have the personnel to replicate the level of success that Mike Zimmer's historically had against Aaron Rodgers. What's Rodgers going to do? Is he going to put up 100 passer rating, 90 passer rating? Ass? Is he going to put up ass?
You got to ask Everson Griffin about that one. It's really the way this offense is going to be structured. It's going to be Aaron Rodgers rolling out, scrambling, and all of that all over again. And you can't. Even for a guy who's
so if he scrambles towards the Everson Griffin side, that feels like a bad idea. If he scrambles towards Brian Robinson's side, you're just gonna have Anthony Barr scrape over. I'm not saying it's I've solved the puzzle or anything like that, but that's got its own problems, right?
Yeah, I think this game is gonna look closer than the Jacksonville game did for sure. Because the problem with Jacksonville is Jacksonville still doesn't really have edge defenders. I think it was on a 4th and short. They're out of the pistol or something.
Yeah, they cut their edge defenders. Yeah, I remember that.
Well, they cut him with Randall Cobb. On a crucial 4th down. They were just it's just, and they ran through that hole that he cut. They're literally Randall Cobb lead blocking against your edge defender, and it's dude,
and it worked. Oh,
and it worked, which is the more embarrassing thing. If that happened to me, I coach high school football. If that happened to me, we just don't have the horses, man. I don't know what to tell you. We aren't equipped to win this game, so we really don't deserve it at this point. Yeah. So that.
Let's talk about the fat dude. Is he good?
Fat dude, Eddie Lacy. He's still fat. Don't believe it. Look, I'm an Eddie Lacy truther, man. Like, he's still fat. I'm not sure he lost a single pound this offseason.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I remember you saying that before the last game, too.
Look, listen.
Okay,
look.
hold on. He was in the offseason, he weighed like 265. That's what Gronkowski's listed at. And I don't believe Gronkowski's actually 265. He's probably like 270, 280. But I mean, he weighed as much as like a lot of tight ends weigh. Is he still 260? Like, that's what he hit in the offseason.
Dude, I think
like maybe he's 240.
Look, this team's tight ends are Jared Cook and Richard Rodgers. I think Eddie Lacy weighs more than them.
Like, yeah, that's fair.
If you put Eddie Lacy next to Green Bay's fullback Aaron Ripkowski, like, Eddie Lacy looks more dense, I guess you would say, than Aaron Ripkowski. Like, I don't believe it, man. I'm sorry. P90X, I don't know. Like, I think Eddie Lacy straight up took that check from P90X and then went to KFC. I don't believe it.
Yeah, how hilarious is that P90X story, just in general? Like, that's ridiculous, right? It's funny as hell.
Yeah, it doesn't really make sense, and then it's just like, yeah, Eddie's losing all this weight, and then he like shows up to camp, and it's just me watching him the entire preseason, being like, are we sure? Are we sure he lost any weight at all?
Okay, so why, if there is a strength and conditioning program at Green Bay, which I am actually suspicious of, why would you need to use a commercial product like P90X and not like the plan, the strength and conditioning staff set out? Like, what's the advantage? Is it just money? You get to promote the thing, you get paid for it?
I think so. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it, right? I mean, nothing else makes sense. I mean, shouts to that agent. That agent was probably like, damn, Eddie's about to eat his way through the damn league. We better at least get him his last sponsorship. At least get more than 2% on this.
Okay, so did he care about football? Because there's that one really good story the Journal Sentinel when he was drafted that's basically like, yeah, so this dude doesn't care about football. Anyway, he's your second-round pick. Does he care? Do you mind that he doesn't seem to care? Like, is he back to caring?
Man, it's almost like a weird thing. Like, Eddie almost strikes me as like the kid who plays football because he was like just told he was gonna be good at football from like the moment he was a kid, and it was like, oh yeah, you're a big dude.
That's what he said in the article. He was like, yeah, I don't even like football. They just
he doesn't really even watch it. I know. Guys like Dominic Easley have said that in the past too. When he was drafted by the New England Patriots, they were like, "Who's your favorite player?" He's like, "Dude, I literally don't watch football if it's not in the film room. I don't like it." So like,
yeah, it seems to be who Eddie Lacy is. He watches cartoons whenever he gets the chance.
Yeah, he's out there watching like the Hulk and stuff like that. Does it worry me? Yeah, especially with the combination of the weight thing. Like, I think whoever gives Eddie Lacy his second contract, they're gonna be in for that's gonna be a roller coaster ride, because you might be able to get a year or two out of him, but like if you give Eddie Lacy like a 4-year contract, I can't imagine the way that you feel. Like, as a general manager, and you're like, he's literally he's eating Chinese food right now, or China food, as Eddie Lacy would say it.
Right. Okay. So here's an interesting question. I think Packers like to spend second-round picks on receivers. Has worked out for them in the past, except for Devontae Adams. Probably some others you can name. Yeah. Good year to spend a second-round pick on a running back. What do they do?
Like this year or this next class?
Yeah, this year. I mean, 2017.
Yeah. I'd be very cool with that, especially if, like, I know a lot of people, like, I'm
saying,
cool
like, Jordy Nelson's old, Devontae Adams is bad, Randall Cobb can do like one thing really well, but not most things.
Yeah. Yeah, I really hope that they either go after like a deep ball receiver, because their defensive, like, on defense, really they're not going to lose anyone like anytime soon. Like, Julius Peppers is going to be gone, but Julius Peppers is this is another thing from week 1. Like, Julius Peppers, he's absolutely washed. Like, Julius Peppers is not getting 10 sacks this year like he did last year. But like, I really hope that this team invests either in like a long ball receiver or a running back, because those are the two aspects that this team is kind of missing. Even if it's like a running back, like a Christian McCaffrey, where he's like more of like a pass catcher out of the backfield, or he's like kind of like I don't know who you would compare him to, but it's like a super version of like Darren Sproles, basically, right? Like a Darren Sproles, Danny Woodhead, like those type of guys, but like kicked up to another level. I think that's who. Like,
I think he comes better to like a good Reggie Bush.
Yeah, that would make sense too. Like a guy like that, if the Packers wanted to run no huddle, which it seems like Aaron Rodgers really wants to do, That would be cool. But the problem is Eddie Lacy's their number one back right now, and they can't run no huddle with Eddie Lacy. And then they get into situations where it's like, do we want James Starks to be the running back in no huddle situations, or are we going to line Randall Cobb in an I formation? And it's like, dude, man.
Is it a conditioning issue that you can't run no huddle because it's Eddie Lacy? You got a defensive lineman at running back?
Absolutely. Yeah. That's 100% the issue. Like, literally, they went into no huddle twice last game in week 1, and it was just James Starks. It was clockwork. It was just like, yep, he's coming off of the field. This isn't going to work. And the Packers really have no depth at running back because their third running back right now is Jarrell Presley from y'all.
No, they just cut him. Did
this happen? When did this happen?
I think an hour ago.
This is rude. So they're rolling with 2 running backs?
Yeah, Rob Domofsky, the Packers releasing running back Jarrell Presley. Source said they need a roster spot on the defensive side this week. 1 hour ago.
So they're rolling into this game with literally 2 running backs. Okay.
Yeah, James Starks is injury prone, right? And Eddie Lacy is injury prone, right?
Yeah. And also, like, oh my God, like, you run no huddle situation if James Starks gets hurt. That means Randall Cobb is in the backfield. And that probably means free Janis. Janis gang out there. Yes, this is how Janis sees the field. This is how Jeff Janis finally gets on the field offensively.
How hounded were you about Janis this offseason? Because you're of the opinion that he's like #bad.
He's not good. He's not good. He's
right. I mean, yeah, he couldn't beat Devontae Adams. Right. He's a good punt gunner, right?
He's a very good punt gunner, and I'm okay with
he's like
him
a Trey
being
Waynes
a very
level
good
punt gunner.
Yeah, he can be a very good punt gunner, and I think he should stay in that role. I don't think he should be a damn Z receiver and just like go deep every single time and just like run the offense to throw the deep ball.
As Matthew Slater is as a punt gunner.
I don't think he's as physical.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, I don't think he's as physical. I think he can just force like a bunch of fair catches. Like that's really what you want him to do. You really don't want him to tackle anyone. You just want to like have him force fair catches all the time.
Right. Okay, so we'll see more Janis maybe, especially if like one of their 2 injury-prone running backs gets injured. Can Janis do a thing? Like obviously he did a thing in the playoff game, but can he like? Does he have value as a receiver? Not is he good, because he's not. Does he have value? Yeah,
I mean, I think you can get him in on special teams, right? I mean, that's pretty clear at this point. You can get him in on special teams, period. And then there's a situation on offense where if your starting receiver goes down, like your starting like X receiver goes down, right? Like if Jordy goes down, this team needs a deep threat. Like Jordy's supposed to be their deep threat. He's not necessarily there yet. But to make this offense work, where you're going to have Devontae Adams, who drops passes as a possession receiver, working as the Z receiver, and then Randall Cobb working in as the slot, someone's got to go deep. Like, someone's got to test the defense. And if nothing else, Jeff Janis can be that guy that can test the defense. Because Ty Montgomery's not really that guy, and Jared Abderus really isn't really that guy either. So it's like down to Jeff Janis and Trevor Davis.
What is Ty Montgomery?
Ty Montgomery's a backup Randall Cobb.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah. Cool. He's a backup slot receiver. That's why a lot of people were like, he can win the third receiver slot. And I'm like, he's not even an outside receiver. You guys don't know what you're talking about. Like, that's not his role at all. Like, he's there to beat Randall Cobb if Randall Cobb is hurt and play special teams. That's his job.
Did he play the Randall Cobb role when Randall Cobb had to play the Jordy role?
He wasn't bad. He showed some flashes, but it was pretty it was pretty clear that wasn't going to really work. Where it's like, oh yeah, we'll just run our offense through like Ty Montgomery. No, that's not how this one's going to go. Basically,
okay, so we've established that the receiver core is bad. We've established that the linebacker core is thin. We've established that the defensive line is thin. We've established that the running backs are thin and also bad. Secondary is all right?
Secondary is really good. I actually really like these guys. I know you were saying that the 2 young guys, Demarius Randall's really good. Like Demarius Randall beat Allen Robinson in several one-on-one situations and like almost had a pick and almost bodied him a couple times. But the guys that I would worry about is like the inside guys who are going to have to play slot stuff are Quentin Rollins, who ran like basically like a 4.6, and then Ladarius Gunter, who ran like a 4.7, and both of those guys got burned bad. Quentin Rollins got burned by a tight end. They had Quentin Rollins in a one-on-one matchup. Jacksonville did when they threw that little that 2-on-2 little pop screen, on 4th and 1 for some reason with like 20 seconds left and no timeouts, and they needed a touchdown. They thought that was the good idea. Is we need 1 yard, let's throw it 4 yards behind the line of scrimmage. They had Quentin Rollins in a one-on-one situation, and they probably could have thrown like a fade, and he would have given that up pretty easily. Ladarius Gunter gave up a giant pass in a one-on-one situation in man coverage after Quentin Rollins got burned. They were like, "Hey, we're going to throw in Ladarius Gunter," and then they decided to do Dom Capers shenanigans, where they immediately were like, "Yeah, we're just gonna send like a crazy blitz and be in man coverage," and it was Ladarius Gunter like running a 4.7 down the field, just getting absolutely thrashed, and it was like, "Oh yeah, this isn't gonna work either."
So
speed out of the
slot.
slot. Diggs is he gonna play in the slot, or is he gonna play outside? Because I think,
I mean, he's played a lot of both.
Well,
I mean, if Norv Turner is a guy that allows the matchups to dictate where the receivers go, which I have no idea. It's been years and I still have no idea. Then yeah, it sounds like you play a lot of the slot, right? Thielen, Johnson on the outside.
That's the way it should be if you're trying to mismatch guys. And Demarius Randall will follow into the slot every once in a while too, but then you end up with Quentin Rollins on the outside, and if you have a guy who can run on the outside, that's going to be an issue. So it's like, I don't know. It's kind of a weird situation where like Green Bay kind of does the same thing where they match up with that corner opposite of like their shutdown corner. Like that number 2 guy will kind of float. We saw that with like Charles Woodson back in the day, Devon House, Tramon Williams, all those guys. So Sam Shields for sure is going to be an outside corner, but like Demarius Randall kind of floats in the slot and outside, and then like Quentin Rollins and Ladarius Gunter come into the game based on like where Randall is going to be at. So if you like move your guys, if you move Diggs into the slot, I think at some point Demarius Randall will follow him into it, but it'll be up to that next outside receiver to make Green Bay basically pay for having slow corners on the outside of a defense that is very aggressive and very often leaves guys one-on-one.
So more likely, let's assume Adam Thielen is average at everything, which again, not an accurate representation of who he is, but good enough. So I don't know like when, but it sounds like at some point, if they just keep Diggs in the slot, Demarius Randall will float over. More likely, Diggs gets over 85 yards, or Thielen, average receiver number whoever, gets 50 yards.
I think Diggs. Diggs is more likely. Yeah, I think Diggs is more likely. Because the thing about Green Bay's receivers...
Is this like when Sterling Shepard and Mackenzie Alexander played each other and they just like got sick of it, so they put Sterling Shepard in the slot, and it took a while, and then they eventually put Mackenzie Alexander in the slot to deal with Sterling Shepard? Is it going to be like that?
Yeah. Like, the thing about the Packers, too, is they play very aggressive. Like, it's really like Dom Capers does not give a damn about trying to stop you. He either wants the ball or he wants to sack you and make you punt it immediately. So, like, the thing about Demarius Randall, he's a kind of like Sam Shields, where, like, you're absolutely 100% going to be able to get him on a double move, but he has, like, the closing speed to also, like, make an interception off of, like, oh, I think this guy's open, he has, like, a step, and then him just hitting another speed. I know he almost pried the ball out of Allen Robinson's hands twice when Blake Bortles thought he had a step on him. So it's like...
speaking of which, did you see that Jason Verrett interception?
Yeah, the one on Jeremy Maclin or whatever? Dude,
yeah.
That I saw that Vine, and it was like, I think it was Kyle Posey who tweeted it out, and I was like, I saw it and I saw the caption, and I thought it was gonna be like Verrett cutting him off from being behind Macklin to like cutting in front, like jumping in front of him and cutting him off and grabbing the ball, and then it just looks like Macklin catches the ball and Verrett's tackling him, and then all of a sudden just Verrett just pops up with the ball and just like
he just has the ball,
out. And I'm like, what? Wait, what? How did that even? That doesn't make sense. Yeah, Jason Verrett's not a human, man. I love that guy.
Yeah, he's great. I love him. I'm school team small corners, so I love him.
I usually hate small corners, but it's like him and Hargraves were the two guys who you could absolutely see it like 100%. Where you're like, literally your only flaw is that you're smaller than everyone else. And then
what are your thoughts on McKenzie?
I was kind of worried about him because he played in kind of a non-traditional defense, So it was like he never really had to pedal. I think the interception thing was kind of overblown. Like I think to question his ball skills is fair, but to be like he never had an interception when like interceptions are like very. I mean, we can say like interceptions are random. Like I know we like to say I know we like to say that like fumbles are random, but like the idea of your ratio between pass deflections and interceptions, that's very random. Like being around the ball is not random, but the idea of like how many plays you turn from pass deflections and interceptions, I think that's pretty random. So I think that was kind of a little bit overblown. He was a smaller type corner. What worries me a lot about corner, this is what I heard from guys in the league, is like they were always like, small DBs, you really need to look at injuries. And that was one like huge reason why Jason Verrett was easily a top 10 talent. I mean, if you're talking
about a labrum problem, right?
Yeah, he had a shoulder issue. So it ended up being like, all right, you're a small corner. You can't really lead with your head anymore. Your shock pad is your shoulder, and you keep having those issues. And he had those issues in San Diego too. I mean, I'm not sure that we could totally say that it's not going to be an issue from, this point forward in his career. But it definitely that definitely was a huge factor in why Verrett went so low in the draft relative to how actually talented he was. Because I think outside of like Marcus Peters, like I think Verrett's the best corner I've probably ever seen at the college level.
Damn, man. All right, cool. We got a little bit away. Okay, so secondary is all right. It's got some great players. It's got some mid players. Sam Shields is out, right?
Is he officially out?
I don't know. I just know that
he's going through the concussion protocol.
Yeah, I don't know. It sounded like pretty bad, but I don't know for sure that he's out.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably something we'll have a better feel for on like Friday or something like that. But yeah, I mean, if he is out, that's whew. Yeah, that's gonna be an issue. Ladarius Gunter.
So the secondary's trashed. The linebacker stuff is weird. Defensive line is like thin.
Yeah. I think I would say the
receivers are trash.
I think Clinton Dix is crazy underrated, and Morgan Burnett's crazy. Like it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, I was wrong. I was wrong about Clinton Dix coming out.
Did you not like him, or you just like he's very average?
I just thought he wasn't a first round pick. I thought he was a starter, right?
Yeah.
But like, I was like, I mean, he's a strong safety, and that's it. And you can find those. Those are my thoughts.
He's my favorite, man. He's the leader of this team. It's like him and Mike Daniels now.
How things have changed. All right, so you've got Barris Randall, you've got Clinton Dix, you've got IDP stud Morgan Burnett. Right, he's starting, right?
Yeah, hybrid linebacker, basically.
Yeah,
Morgan Burnett.
I have him like fantasy every year. He's so good, but I mean, just getting tackles, like not as a player. Then
look, he'll come sack you. He did it to Bortles. He'll come sack you. Just watch.
I have no feelings about it. If it was Teddy still in there, I'd have feelings. I have no feelings about this.
Sam Bradford.
I would just say Teddy would probably just stiff arm him into the dust. So.
Oh, okay. All right.
I think Teddy has stiff armed 3 defensive linemen. So if you include the preseason, right? He stiff armed Geno Atkins.
Can we stiff armed Vic Beasley? Can we talk real fast about how Teddy's swag went up tremendously based on his football aesthetics this offseason, and how I'm very sad that I didn't get to see him. Basically, he looks like a Big 12 quarterback now. Like he's out there with the flex and the visor.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he loves which is crazy because his fashion sense is awful.
It's horrible. He looks like Lil Yachty. Like he dresses up like Lil Yachty. It's the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. But like on the football field, I saw him wearing the flex with a visor on, and I was like, "Oh, this dude's gonna throw for like 15,000 yards in the first 4 games against like quarters defenses. He's gonna be like a high school candidate, and then lose to Baylor. Like he's all loaded up, man. He's all loaded up."
All right, so if Teddy was in, he'd stiff arm Morgan Burnett. He's not, so it's Sam Bradford. So, Sean Hill. I would start Sean Hill. I don't know, man. Okay, so secondary, some good players, some trash players. Defensive line, really thin. Linebackers, really thin. Receivers, trash. What's up with the offensive line? They cut Sitton. I hear a rumor that... What?
They actually did really good this past game. Lane Taylor, shut down Malik Jackson outside of, one play, which I was like,
Yeah. Oh.
Lane Taylor is like...
Okay, is Malik Jackson a one-year thing that just got a good contract, or is he, good?
He's not good. He's not a pro. He still hasn't made a Pro Bowl. He's $100 million player basically, and he hasn't made a Pro Bowl. I think he's a solid player. I think he's around Floyd's talent. You know what I mean? He's not like Sue or Geno or one of those guys though. But I mean, Lane Taylor, he's like a $2 million guard going up against him. Like, I was pretty excited about how that went. David Bakhtiari held up very good for a guy who was coming off of a late week back injury. He basically shut down Fowler for every single play outside of one bull rush. J.C. Tretter's holding it up. T.J. Lang, Brian Bulaga, they're all doing solid. Like, the Packers' offensive line probably for the last 2 years has been their best overall unit. If you're talking like wideouts, backfield, offensive line, like that's probably the strength of their team.
Hey, so not an issue then?
No, I wouldn't worry about it too much. I mean, I know guys like. I mean, I think it's more
the
of
best. They're going up against the best 8 deep that the NFL has in defensive line. Not the best front four, but the best 8 deep.
Yeah,
that the NFL has in the front four.
They'll wear you out. Yeah, I think. I worry more about it on the edge. I guess, I mean, Linval's different, right? So, like, Linval, there was no guy who could really replicate what going against that would be like against the Jacksonville Jaguars, right? So, like, maybe he has some crazy game like that. They'll
crazy games against the Packers in the past. I think, like, he's, like, out of his 4 best games, 2 of them are against the Packers.
And then on the edge, I mean, I think a guy like Everson Griffin and Danielle Hunter, I think those guys will be able to get like they'll get a couple plays. You know what I mean? Like, it's just your offensive tackle who's going to be going up against those 2 guys. That they're going to get anyone in the league at some point. Those guys are just too good. Their athleticism outbears basically any offensive lineman outside of like maybe Tyrod Smith. So,
all right, okay, so some worries, not too many worries then.
Yeah. I mean, they're going to give up. I mean, that's about their offensive line is about as good as you can get in the league outside of like Dallas. So,
now you trash this team a lot. It's pretty lucky the Packers play in a weak division.
Yeah, I mean, you guys were talking about I threw out that Matthew Stafford stat earlier where I was like, he's 7-2 in the last 9 games, and one of them was against that.
Hey, Matthew Stafford is a completely new quarterback under the JBC.
He is, man. He's thrown 22 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. I don't understand how are we sure Jim Bob Cooter isn't Christ?
But also splits happen, right? Like splits happen.
But that over 9 games?
Okay, well actually let's talk about last 9 games, last 7 games. So Peterson, last 7 games. 132 carries, 3 yards per carry, 19 first downs, 3 touchdowns. That's pretty shit. Yeah. Matt Stafford, 22 touchdowns, 2 interceptions over 9 games, right?
Yep.
Which is more real?
I think you can get me to buy into a Adrian Peterson decline at 21 years old, or 31 years old, right? Faster than you can than like. Hey, Matthew Stafford in his like 8th year in the league finally figured it all out. I think I could get easier sold on Adrian Peterson.
Matthew Stafford, he's like 28, right?
Yeah, he's 28, but like still, I mean, that's still like 8. He's taking some time to get to that 28.
Dude, okay, so I looked this up. He right now, so it's like his 10th year in the league, right? 9th year,
something. Yeah.
Yeah, right now. He is 5 months older than Brandon Weeden was when he was drafted.
Whew, man! What?
I love Brandon Weeden facts. They're like my favorite quarterback facts.
They don't make sense. Like none of them make sense. Tony
Romo is only 3 years older than Brandon Weeden.
Good God, that can't be true.
He's like 35 or 36. Brandon Weeden's 32 years old.
That just means Tony Romo is going to be like a Houston Texan for like 15 years.
That's true.
That's all that means. Wow. When Glock Ostweiler, the God, finally retires. That's my favorite nickname, bro. Like I've seen.
That's great. Actually, I've never heard that. That's amazing.
I've seen 15 Glock Ostweilers and like 15 Counter Trey Wingos, like different like usernames on Twitter this past week, and I can't. I'm so happy football's back, man. I needed it.
Okay, so your quarterback is like maybe top 10.
I'm gonna strangle you. I'm gonna drive to whichever directional Dakota you live in and strangle you.
All right, so your quarterback's like maybe top 10. You've got a bad receiver core. You've got all right offensive line. They haven't been up against Linval yet.
Yep.
You've got an up and down secondary. You've got some really good members of the secondary. You've got some really bad members of the secondary. Thin at linebacker. Thin along the defensive line. Why is the team good?
Aaron Rodgers. It's really Aaron Rodgers. This entire team is built around Aaron Rodgers having at least a 1-score lead.
He's like, so statistically, he was like the 20th best quarterback last year. PFF was like, hold on, he was the 10th best. Why? Why is he good?
Why is he
bad then? Why is he good now?
Have you seen? He was good then.
PFF said he was number 10. Obviously, they're gospel.
Listen. Did you see the passes that he had to make?
What, last year?
Yes.
Yeah, I relished them. I loved watching them. They were fantastic.
How can you think that? I'm gonna strangle you. You guys are really full on this like Aaron Rodgers decline. I can't wait for him to christen the Prince Dome. I'm done with it.
I was right about Tom Brady being bad in 2013. I'm going to be right about Aaron Rodgers being bad in 2016. No, obviously.
No, this ain't gonna fly. Rodgers is about to christen the Prince Dome, snatch that banner straight down. No. Y'all doing this to yourselves. Remember about this basically someone jinxed themselves every single time we have this podcast, and y'all are positioning yourselves for like a 34-5 game.
That's true. Someone would always jinx themselves. Okay, so you got like the 24th best quarterback in the league, Sam Bradford, but you got to give him a first-year discount, so he's like 28th. He's like the 28th best quarterback in the league. You go up against like what, the 6th best quarterback, 5th best quarterback, 4th best quarterback in the league, Aaron Rodgers. He's like, I mean, because what, he's like behind good Carson Palmer, Ben Roethlisberger.
Good Carson Palmer hasn't been here since he messed up that finger, so
maybe Tom Brady, Russell Wilson, Dak Prescott, Aaron Rodgers, right?
Yeah, that's the exact ranking actually. That's how that works. Dak Prescott. We're like, man, so many people are gonna have to delete so many tweets about Dak Prescott, including myself. This is gonna be amazing. So I was like, oh wow, yeah, like he didn't complete a single pass over 20 yards. Oh, yeah, that's not gonna be good. We went straight from. So the thing is about this weekend, we're just gonna talk about week 1 in general, right? So there were no real opportunities for us to like really get like hot takes and like crazy overreactions off because all these games were so close up until that basically the Arizona New England game and then the Monday night games, right? So it's gonna end up being like everyone just being
Twitter tried its hardest to get like a bunch of hot takes off. Like Zeke is bad now, but no, I mean it was a week. I think for hot takes.
It was a super week for hot takes. It looked Monday looked like Wednesday. We shouldn't be doing this. It's September. But basically like the only thing that anyone can like basically agree on now is that the Rams suck and that the Redskins suck, and the Redskins are about to go against the Cowboys, and they're just gonna beat the shit out of the Cowboys.
Oh, that's gonna be great, isn't it?
Deshaun Jackson's gonna do something. Deshaun Jackson's gonna like crip walk and just like straight, just like put back Prescott. To be honest, so it's like I don't know. This is I can almost promise you just the way that things work out. The Cowboys lost a close game at home. The Redskins got blown out by a playoff team. And now the Redskins are just going to beat the ever-loving crap out of the Cowboys in Washington. That's the exact way that
I strongly believe that Bashaud Breeland is good. So this is his comeback game, right? He's going to put up against Dez.
So this is the thing, right? If you're coming up with a narrative from week 1 to say, this is the blueprint to beat the Washington Redskins, right? Your whole thing is, hey, throw it to your star receiver. He's going to be able to destroy guys, right? It's going to be like, hey, Antonio Brown, just throw. Do you know what Dez's stat line looked like last week? He got 1 catch for 8 yards.
But I mean, like
against the New York Giants.
But I mean, there was no game plan for him. It's not the same, right? Dak's going to know he's got to go to Dez now. No question about that.
You didn't think Dak realized that after like the entire preseason? I think the Cowboys know that they should throw to Dez Bryant. Like
weren't we just talking about how crazy confident Dak Prescott was?
Yeah,
he's
but
like
everything
Cole
was still
Beasley,
like,
that's my dude. That's how confident he was.
I think the whole thing was like still no, because you watch him in the preseason, it's still just like I'm gonna throw it up to Dez Bryant and I'm gonna throw it up to Jason Witten. Those are the 2 things I'm gonna do over and over again. And I'm gonna ask.
So I didn't actually watch much of this Cowboys game. So for example, I have no idea if Zeke was actually bad, but why didn't he throw to Dez? Did he throw to Dez? Was it just like a bunch of bad passes? Because I knew there was like a deep pass. Twitter told me there's a deep pass that like
there was a deep pass, and it was pretty close. But like, other than that, it was basically like the Giants just being like, we're gonna take away everything outside, and we're gonna make you just kind of like it's not too different from what Pittsburgh did, where they were basically
did Janoris Jenkins take away Dez Bryant?
Listen. Look, I'm so sad about Janoris Jenkins, man. Me and Eric Stoner were having this conversation. Shouts to Bo Jackson, and we were trying to figure out like which Los Angeles Ram would date a Kardashian, and the answer would have been Janoris Jenkins. Like Janoris Jenkins right now would be on Kylie Jenner's like Snapchat and Instagram.
That
right
would have
now.
been
It would have been amazing. They messed it up, man. They really messed it up because we were talking about how the Rams are now basically what the Knicks are to the New York. That's how this whole thing is going to play out. And we're trying to figure out who J.R. Smith was going to be. And we're like, damn, which one of these guys is going to date the Kardashian? And the answer was Janoris Jenkins, and Janoris Jenkins isn't there anymore.
Wait, did you figure out who Amari and Melo are?
Oh, Todd Gurley's Melo. Todd Gurley's Melo. Yeah, we decided Todd Gurley's Melo or it's Aaron.
But that makes all kinds of sense because he can be a black hole too, right? Like we got to run ourselves out into a lead.
Yeah. Yep. So I don't know who's going to get hurt first. I mean, maybe. I mean, if we're going to talk about large investments that may possibly not turn out well, like Amari. I mean, Jared Goff is sitting right there, man. I don't know what to tell you.
But I mean, like, some of it has to be self-inflicted for it to be Amari, right? Like someone's got to punch a fire extinguisher. Who punches a fire extinguisher on that team? It's probably not Aaron Donald.
Tavon.
Oh no, you're right.
Tavon's punching that fire extinguisher and like breaking his hand in like 4 different spots.
Actually, Tavon Amari is I think that's a really good one, right?
You know what?
Super physically talented. Doesn't really like appear on the field.
Yep.
Probably will punch a fire extinguisher.
We're gonna see Tavon taking like what was Amari doing? Taking like baths in like red wine, like and just taking pictures of it like every single day. Like I can see Tavon doing. Yo, just red wine baths. We got to find out who the GM would be though. Like who's the guy
to say is Isaiah Thomas? Yeah, okay, that's actually a good question. I think it's not. I don't think it's Les Snead. I think it is Jeff Fisher.
I think so. If we're talking about like a Phil Jackson type of guy coming in, like Pete Carroll coming back and just being the GM of the Rams and then just not giving a single damn about it, that would be. Oh God, I would be so happy. I can't tell you how. Oh God, I got to stop thinking about it, man, because that ends up being like Tom Cable ends up being the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks. Like, there's good things cannot happen like this.
No, it'll be Darrell Bevell. It'll be Darrell Bevell.
Oh God. Yeah, no, I'm out. I'm out on this conversation. Let's go back to Vikings Packers.
Okay, cool. Did you watch any of the Vikings game against Tennessee?
I watched probably what would have ended up being like a quarter's worth of it flipping through on Sunday, and I did see all of the Tennessee turnovers. So why did they stop running? Because they had a 10-point lead at the half, and they just didn't want to run, even though they talked about wanting to run the entire offseason, and they had a lead.
Tennessee?
Yeah.
So I think part of it is because their run tells were somewhat predictable. I think part of it is that Rob Boris and Mike Mularkey are suspicious of rookies because they should have run Derrick Henry. I think part of it is that DeMarco Murray's success rate dropped off dramatically after the first quarter.
Yeah, because I saw it was like, didn't they have like 16 carries total?
Did they? I think they might have. Yeah. So I tracked. Let me pull up my Excel sheet because I tracked like a bunch of stuff. No, I didn't track. Oh my God, they had 44 dropbacks.
Yes, like I'm telling you,
that's dumb as hell.
They had a double-digit lead heading into halftime, and they were like, "Yep, we're not going to run the ball," even though we talked about this like hallucinogenic, like exotic spread for an entire offseason.
It was Mike Mularkey. You weren't going to believe any words about
this. Is the thing that Mike Mularkey said. Mike Mularkey said this weekend that they were playing Jarrell Casey too much. Their most dominant defensive player in that entire game.
Oh yeah. So he played 73% of snaps, super normal for a dominant defensive tackle to do, defensive interior guy. It's like Geno Atkins stuff. And he was like, yeah, we should have played him less, even though Jurrell Casey, by far, and this includes like Derrick Henry, was the best player the Titans had that game.
Yes, and like I think Mike Mularkey doesn't look at stats, man. I don't believe this. I don't believe it. Show me the numbers. Show me the receipts, Mike. Show me the receipts. I don't believe. You don't have math that says this. I think you're trying to like front like you like read anything. Like I think he just kind of like rolled that one out and was like, yeah, if I say this, then like the media will think that I know things about numbers and they'll not ask questions about me trying to pass the ball up 10 and throwing.
Okay, so that's actually a good point. But okay, so here's the thing about what Mike Mularkey said about Jurrell Casey, is that he is like right about one thing, and that's why he was wrong about the whole thing. Which is that if you decrease a defensive tackle snaps from like 75% to 60% or 75% to 50%, per snap, that defensive tackle will be better. There's no question about that. They'll be better at the end of the game. They'll even be better at the beginning of the game. I'm not really sure why that is. That's what my numbers say. It is not worth it. The marginal increase in effectiveness is not worth the difference in not having that player on the field. Like, so you go from like a really good pressure rate of maybe 14%. That's like elite for a defensive tackle. That's like JJ Watt stuff, right? You maybe you get there. Maybe you get a 14% pressure rate, and you upgrade it from a 10% pressure rate, and you took him out for like 10 more snaps. Like that's not worth it at all.
So, like, you move Jurrell Casey out to be more efficient, right? This is the problem with the Tennessee Titans. They're going to have to play 45 other players on that roster in that game, and none of them are Jurrell Casey. That's your biggest issue. You can't rotate. You're the Tennessee Titans. You won 5 games in the last 2 years. You aren't allowed to not play your.
Here's the thing. I think Carl Klug is a really good backup, but I agree with you, right? Like the point, and this is so weird because like this is not something I usually say. The point isn't to develop the most specific, efficient snaps for a specific player. It's to win football games, and you need to decrease your efficiency per snap in order to do that. This is basic DFS, right? You don't have a roster of 10 players that are the best money for value. You have to select players that are not the best money for value, because then you're not spending your $50,000, right?
Yep. At some point, it comes to like you stop. It's the same thing with GMs, where it's at some point, it's not a game of It's not a game of acquiring talent. It's a game of developing a full roster.
Yeah. Like, there's some point where you
can't lose the sight of that. You can't lose the forest through the trees. It's like, bro, you're trying to win games. What are you doing? Do not take Jurrell Casey off of the line of scrimmage.
I'm increasing his efficiency. Well, okay. Anyway, so you saw that Tennessee Titans game a little bit. Did you get any sense of the Vikings' offensive line?
No, but I did see that Pro Football Focus had Jurrell Casey and Derek Morgan as like 2 of their 4 most efficient defensive linemen, or like edge defenders, whatever you want to call them, in the first week, and that kind of freaks me out because Derek Morgan isn't really good. So, if you want to tell me about how that, I kind of disagree
on Derek Morgan, but that's fair. I will. Okay.
He's weird. He's like kind of above average. Like I don't know. Like he's never gonna be a. He's like
guy. Discount Brandon Graham, right?
Yeah. That's like a really good way to put it.
All right, so another side of this PFF thing. So PFF basically is like 6 tiers. Like that's what the colors are for. You got blue for elite. You've got like one of the greens for above average or for good, with the other green for above average, yellow for like average, orange for below average, and red for awful, right? So they got 6 tiers, right? 4 of the Vikings offensive linemen were red. One of them was yellow. So there's nobody in the orange. There's no like intermediate. So Joe Berger, center, average. Matt Khalil, red. Alex Boone, red. Brandon Fusco, red. Andre Smith, red. Here's the thing. I strongly disagree with this because I think both Matt Khalil and Brandon Fusco should be orange. That's kind of where the Vikings' offensive line is.
Alex Boone sucks now?
He sucked in the game. I don't know if he sucks in general. He was really good in the preseason.
I was gonna say, I was like, that was really the one thing that I was gonna be able to bank on for that.
He was the single worst offensive lineman in that game. Watch it. I dare you.
Was it just Jurrell Casey just beating him up like that?
Jurrell Casey beat the ever-loving shit out of him.
Oh God, yeah, I'll probably watch that game tonight.
I
Damn, I didn't know it was gonna be like that. So, what do you think about your receivers though? Do you think
they're
like
underrated, but like a bunch of teams have a bunch of good receivers, so I don't really know where to like put them. Right, like better than the Eagles, better than the Dolphins. That's not hard. Are they better than the Seahawks receiver core? Also underrated? Maybe, probably not.
I don't know. I mean, the Seahawks basically the way that they ran their offense. Russell Wilson threw more passes last week than he's ever thrown in a regular season game, and only 2 receivers got more than 20 yards. So it's like, hey, our entire offense runs through 2 different guys, and it's not going to change anytime soon. And they had their offensive lineman. Let me ask you this. Did Minnesota have their offensive linemen cut on 3-step drops like they were playing in the Mountain West, like the Seattle Seahawks were? Or
Lol, no. So the Minnesota offensive line was really bad. So here's the thing I liked about the offensive line, which has nothing to do with their level of play. The Vikings were like, Sean Hill is not Teddy Bridgewater. Last year, out of 606 dropbacks that were not like screen passes or rollouts, I should say, out of 606 dropbacks, including the playoffs, the Vikings had 51 3-step drops. They had the lowest percentage in the league of 3-step drops last year. It's like 8%. In the NFL, right? Awful offensive line. The worst offensive line in pass protection in the NFL. 8% of them were 3-step drops. This game, 43% of their passes were 3-step drops. 43%. Right?
smart.
Very smart. They didn't cut anybody on those 3-step drops because they're like, Sean Hill can throw the ball quickly enough. It's not going to matter. And it kind of didn't matter. So,
well, like, let me tell you this.
They're not in Seattle territory.
I think Seattle, I believed when I charted it, Seattle had double-digit amount of throws behind the line of scrimmage. Like
Gross.
they are full. Go watch that game. I think
That sounds like the 2012 Vikings with Ponder.
Look,
Percy Harvin.
I think it wasn't until either the 9th or the 10th pass that Russell Wilson threw that his offensive lineman dropped into like legitimate pass protection, and he threw the ball over the line of scrimmage.
Dude, he's like one of the best deep ball throwers in the league. What is this?
Is
it just the offense left so bad?
Basically, outside of when Miami went into like a prevent defense at the end of the first half, he was like 2 of 8 on passes over like 6 yards, and that was out of like 44 attempts. Like, there's a very real chance that team is very ugly, especially
so Russell Wilson hurt his ankle.
Yep, he hurt his ankle in like the third quarter.
Yeah. How much of a Trevone Vic fan are you?
Not that much. I mean, basically, like, if you're draft Twitter, you have to basically pick a camp, and you're like, either Vernon Adams is a first-round pick or Trevone Boykin is going to be a first-round pick, and your boy was Vernon Adams, gang, for sure.
Yeah, easily.
I mean, he looked. I don't know. I saw I think 2 of the Seattle preseason games, and like one of them he looked really good and threw like a Hail Mary at the end, and the other one he looked really bad, and I think the game ended on like a sack, like a bad sack. Like, you can't take this. This game is over if you take this, and he just straight went down. So I don't know, but like the other option is Jake Heaps, and I can tell you for a fact Jake Heaps is not good.
Oh, easily.
Yeah.
Wait, so they had Vernon Adams in for a tryout, right?
The Seahawks? I don't know, because I think wasn't Boykin was in on tryout and then ended up making it. I don't know.
Oh, maybe I was just confusing it too. Yeah, never mind. Man, I don't know. All right, so let's okay, so what are your predictions for the game, for the Vikings Seahawks game, or Vikings Packers game?
Whew. If you guys can't establish the run, I think you guys lose. I think that's really the only way that you guys can compete on the offensive side of the ball, because I think the difference between the quarterbacks are too different. It's going to be a primetime game. I expect a lot of hot takes. Basically, the Packers are going to be favored somewhere between 3 and 2 points. I think if you can get an opportunity where you can find a line where you can get the Packers winning by 3 points and win money, I think that would be smart of you.
Okay. So watch the Vikings Titans tonight.
Yep.
Tell me what you thought of Adrian Peterson. Right out of the gate, we know the run blocking is bad, right?
Right.
But I am of the belief that like both of them were bad. Plus the play calling was bad. Okay, so I need to rant about this. I ranted about this.
You can have you can have run blocking be bad and still have production at running back. Like if you watch San Francisco,
Todd Gurley just did that. Carlos Hyde just did that.
Carlos Hyde just did that. I mean, Carlos Hyde's like third in the NFL in rushing yards, and it's basically off of 3 runs, and they were all blown plays outside of. He had like one good counter tray play that he ran in for a touchdown, and it's like the most beautiful block play I've ever seen in my life. And then the rest of them are just like his offensive line just getting thrashed on by the St. Louis there we go, slip up. Los Angeles line. They're running basically bare fronts, and Chip Kelly's like, I don't care if college teams have adjusted to this. I'm still going to run it. We're still going to run inside zone, even though there's a guy in every single gap. And like Carlos Hyde is just getting pressed up against the wall and then bouncing it opposite where the read man used to be and just making like NFL backside linebackers and DNs looking like children and just like running through their secondary.
So this is what I think. So I think Carlos Hyde I think actually Todd Gurley was not at fault in that game. For like what he got like 47 yards, right? On like 18 carries. I have no idea. It was awful, right? I thought Todd Gurley played all right. I think that's the difference, right? I think that like if you look at how Todd Gurley played with his abysmal run blocking, I think he played above average. I think if you look at Adrian Peterson with his abysmal run blocking, I think Adrian Peterson was terrible. You need to tell me what you think of how Adrian Peterson played and whether or not he had any opportunities to overcome the awful run blocking and what he did or what he could have done to improve on a 1.6 yard per carry, 26% success rate game.
I'll do that for sure because I know people have talked about that before where it's like I think some people think you Vikings fans are crazy for saying like, hey, Adrian Peterson's like holding back this offense, and people are like, what? He like led the NFL in rushing and led him in rushing yardage and in rushing touchdowns. But if like this is gonna be the case, then like I gotta go check that out. I didn't know that the splits for the first half of the year and second half of the year last season were that bad.
Yeah. It's pretty significant. It's become part of the conversation. So check that out. So if the Vikings, obviously there's a big difference in quarterbacks. If you're happy with the Packers secondary, obviously that's a big problem, regardless of whether or not Sam Bradford or Sean Hill. The Vikings cannot establish a run game. That's it, right? Like there's no offense. Vikings have a great defense. What do you think? Projected passer rating for Aaron Rodgers.
I think usually when he's away, he's still cracking 100. So like,
but Mike Zimmer defenses, he's had like some pretty significant drop offs.
I think like I don't know, probably.
I think this is the most talented Mike Zimmer defense he's ever had. Maybe not the best, but the most talented. Yeah, I mean they still have some young pieces, but I think like they're like if they hit their peak, these are the guys that for sure. Probably like 93. I think you'd probably get away with like a 93. Yeah, I could live with that. And then Sham Hilford. Probably, like 75, 80?
Yeah, probably. That makes sense. I don't know if you guys are on Twitter right now, but it says that Sam Bradford is taking all the first-team snaps.
That's Charlie Walters. Don't listen to Charlie Walters. Don't listen to him. He's not real.
All right.
I mean, no one was even allowed to watch this practice. It doesn't matter. Okay. So... whoever, 73 or 75 to 80. Okay, cool. How well does Adrian Peterson need to play to make this like a home win?
Bro, you got to get like 80 yards at least, like 80, 100 yards. Like you're going to have to wear out this team. It's going to have to be reps over a long period of time.
Like 80 yards, 18 carries?
Yeah, like it's going to have just keep hammering. Like you have to commit to the run game. Like that like as soon as Jacksonville started going away from the run game because things weren't going right with TJ Yeldon, I knew it was going to be bad. I think if Chris Ivory plays that game and they're just able to like chip away, they might have come away with a win.
What's the deal with him? So he's in the hospital? What happened to him?
I'm not going to say. There's been some rumors out there and it makes sense why it's not coming out. It's nothing bad about him. It's just kind of like an embarrassing thing, which like makes sense. Okay. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of maybe I'll tell you guys off air. But it's just kind of a weird situation.
So in order for the Vikings to make this close enough to pull out a W, they got to get like 80 yards on the ground from Peterson, probably 25 at least from McKinnon, probably more. Maybe get a good Sam Bradford read option scramble in there for like 10.
Oh God, don't do that to me. I'm not ready for those tweets,
dude.
It's gonna happen. Yeah. I'm not ready for it.
Dude, Clay Matthews is going to crash down, and Adrian Peterson. There's going to be a lane like the size of Texas.
Yep.
Sam Bradford's going to be like, I've been here before. I know what to do.
I know what to do. I've been coached by the Overlord Chip Kelly. Yeah, much like Dom Capers' defense, I will not be prepared to see that. Yeah, yeah, that's how that one's going to go.
All right. Is there anything else you want to add? Like, not just like stuff you want to plug, but like observations for the weekend. You just need to like takes. You just need to get off.
I think Houston's going to be better than we think.
Do you think Brock's good? I thought he was bad in Denver.
I think he's functional with that amount of wide receiver talent if you're going to spread those guys out and if you're going to have Lamar Miller be able to catch balls out of the backfield. It wouldn't like they remind me of Arizona from like 2 years ago. Not this past Arizona team that kind of like took the league by storm, but the one right before that because I think their defense is stronger than anyone in the NFC or AFC South by a pretty good margin too. So I think like Houston, you could pretty much lock them up winning the South as far as I'm concerned. Things that
so I took the odds for Tennessee to win the AFC South. I was like, these odds are too good. They're like plus 475.
You idiot!
I regret it. I really regret it.
Yeah, I'm completely out on Tennessee. I think I remind myself like after week 1 every year, and I'm like, oh my god, this team's won 2 games in like the past 50 games. Like how did I convince myself that this was going to be anything?
I looked at the roster and I was like, Jarrell Casey, Carl Klug. That's like those are defensive players. You got a great offensive line. You got Marcus Mariota. You got Derrick Henry. You got maybe a good DeMarco Murray. Like this team could like squeak it out. Maybe they're not a 50% chance to win the division, but they're like maybe a 20% chance. That's worth plus 475. I watched the game. Watch, Mike Mularkey coach a team. Terrible idea, man. Terrible idea.
The fake Mariota like pause. I'm gonna step up and like run the ball to throw a swing screen, and like an incomplete swing screen was the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. I saw that and I was like, oh my god! I picked this team in my damn my gambling column. I feel horrible about it. I think they did that with the lead too, and I was like,
I put actual units.
American dollars?
Yeah, on Tennessee. God damn. I was like, what? Those points? I mean, new quarterback. Those points are bad. Terrible idea.
The other team that I think could be just absolutely disgusting offensively is the San Diego Chargers without Keenan Allen. So basically,
my god! I put so much money on the God.
We're making bad decisions on this podcast. So basically, like the only receivers that the Chargers have that are functional are Travis Benjamin and Tyrell Williams, who are guys who will absolutely not cross the middle of the field like Keenan Allen will, and do not run routes. They basically run deep, and that's the only thing that they can do. And the only
what happened to Dontrell Inman? He was like hot for like 2 weeks, right?
This is what I'm about to go over. San Diego has 2 other receivers. They have 4 receivers total on their roster. The other ones are Dontrell Inman and Isaiah Burse, who at this point is still wearing the number 9.
Oh, wait, Isaiah Burse... Derek Carr's dude, right?
Yep, from Fresno State.
Oh my god,
undrafted free agent.
He was a weird person to evaluate. Okay, anyway,
yeah,
he was so weird.
So that's what San Diego's offense is going to run through. If it's not just straight, like I'm checking it down to Danny Woodhead or throwing like Antonio Gates a spot route, like Felipe Rivera. Felipe Rivera is like going to have like an aneurysm or something.
It's gonna be bad for Felipe. Okay, so Vikings Twitter's been talking about trading Jarius Wright to the San Diego Chargers. What do you think?
I mean, what are they going to get back for him? What do you think? I mean, we don't just think that like we're not under the assumption that like every NFL player is worth a first round pick now, right?
I mean, we've been led to believe. I mean, I don't know. They traded Percy, got a first round pick for him. He played like 3 games, right? So yeah, everything's worth a first. Everything.
I don't know. Look, I'm gonna drop a.
Why would you take a chance on the unknown when you've got a proven player in Jarius Wright?
Look. I'm gonna give you guys a little knowledge dart. If you're in like a 50 team fantasy league with like 89 man rosters, the person you want to pick up on your waiver wire right now is James Jones because James Jones was in San Diego, and he's probably gonna get that call back because they need receiver help.
Oh man, they're gonna sign James Jones and
they're gonna sign James Jones and throw him 1,000 passes. They're gonna throw him 1,000 passes.
All of them to his hip pocket too. God.
Yup. That's the way to get it.
All right. Okay. Any other takes you got?
That's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. If you're a
The
Rams
take is that
fan,
the San Diego offense is going to be bad. That's weak as hell.
well, I mean, I think that like Baltimore's going to be pretty horrible. Like for some reason, people think like Baltimore's going to finish 500, even though that they won a game. They scored 13 points, man, and like
Mike Wallace got a touchdown.
Mike Wallace got a touchdown off of like cover 0, and it was like an 80-yard bomb. And if not for that, they would have lost and scored 6 points. Like that game would have been a 7-6 game. Disgusting. And it's not because the Baltimore's defense was good either. Like let me get that out of the way very quickly. It was more Buffalo just shooting themselves in the foot repeatedly. I think Baltimore's probably going to be a top 5 team. And Ronnie Stanley, we got really excited about him in the preseason.
Top 5 pick team, you mean? Yeah, picking the top 5.
Yeah. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
And Ronnie Stanley, we got really excited about him, and we're like, wow, like NFL franchise left tackle, did really well in the preseason. I watched him against the Buffalo Bills, who notably only have really like Jerry Hughes at pass rusher and are basically giant liability outside of that. Ronnie Stanley, not that good. I can promise you, like he's gonna take some time.
Didn't Momentum Twitter trash him like you and Bo, and it was like he just doesn't have enough attitude?
Ronnie Stanley, that was kind of a rumor. I didn't really put anything into that in like my draft evaluation, but I mean that's something people had been saying for like 2 years. Like I remember Ronnie Stanley last year. Was there some game in Arizona that they played? I want to say that they played some game in Arizona because that's where this must have come out. And someone was talking to his parents in the stands and were kind of like trying to woo him as an agent, and they were like, yeah, so like, do you think your son's like ready for the NFL? And like, it had never dawned on them. Like, they weren't really like football people, if that makes sense. Like, his first love was basketball and all that. And it had never dawned on them that he could like declare early for the draft and like go pro. And they were like, dude, he'll be like a top 10 pick. You really don't like follow football at all? And they're like, yeah, pretty much. Like, he's here for school. It's like, oh, okay.
His parents are like profs, right?
Something. I'm not sure, but I mean the way it came across, the way the story was told to me, it was like, yeah, they're not really like, he wasn't really conditioned to be like a football guy. Like he was kind of going to there to go. He was like he. But
is this like the Derek Carr has a kid red flag?
Yeah, that was really stupid too. Like that was incredibly stupid. Like I remember hearing that. Like that and the combination of like, he's the guy you want your daughter to marry, not the one you want to quarterback your football team. And I was like, I don't know, why is that different? Why are you guys so weird? Like they're like, he's the last person in the weight room and the first person out because his kid like almost died a week ago. And I'm like, yeah, I mean,
yeah, man,
what? Like, yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, football people are weird, man. No, I can't do it. Can't do it.
So we don't know if like Ronnie Stanley is like David Yankee basically. We have no idea.
We have no idea. We have no clue.
All right. 2 quarterback takes I need from you. 1 is Tyrod. 2 is Carson.
Carson Wentz. That's not even the Carson I wanted to talk about. All right,
so throw Carson Palmer at the end, but let's talk about Tyrod first.
Yeah, so Tyrod, I watched his game. They need to get another receiver, man. Like it's just not going to work with just Sammy. Like that thing's just not going to work.
You know how much draft capital they put in receivers outside? Robert Woods, was he a 3rd round pick, 2nd round pick?
He was a 2nd round pick.
Yeah. Marquise Goodwin, 4th round pick.
Marquise Goodwin's certified not good though. That's the problem. Is we know that. They keep drafting guys high who are not good at all. That's their problem.
Yeah, I thought Robert Woods could like eke out a Greg Jennings career in the right offense.
Yeah, that's the thing is you heard the whole thing about Robert Woods, right? Is you just kept hearing Packers receiver, right? He's like a Packers receiver. He's like a little possession guy. I think he could be at the next level, but I think that's probably like your 3rd guy, like in a good offense, in a good passing offense. If you're basing around the passing game, that's what it is. The problem was Buffalo couldn't get anything going in the running game because their offensive line was so bad. Their offensive line's an absolute liability. That might be the worst.
All like above 330 pounds, or do they move on from that philosophy?
They did that, and then like Corey Glenn got hurt for a bit, and then it was just bad. It was basically Incognito, and then like everyone else, which is very problematic because I don't know, like Incognito is basically he's week to week. You know what I mean?
As a person, yeah.
Yeah, and then, like, LaShawn McCoy's the biggest freelance. Like, when things go wrong, LaShawn McCoy's the biggest freelancer in the league. So it was, like, things going bad and then him running 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage trying to cut across the entire side of the field and on, like, a design power play or, like, a counter play. And you just be
okay.
like,
This
nope.
brings up something else I want to take on, but that's going to be after Carson Palmer. All right. So Tyrod, all right. Just needs a receiver.
Tyrod can work, but he needs a receiver and an offensive line. But that's not coming anytime soon. So like this could be really bad, especially when like
I was all in on Tyrod.
Rex Ryan teams, I think, have started like I think it's like 7-1 or something like that in week 1. Like Rex Ryan teams peak in week 1. They scored 7 points. This isn't good.
That's not great, man. I don't know what to tell you. That's not great.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So now I need a Carson Wentz take.
He did some very good things, but some things that I think might not work against some defenses that aren't the Cleveland Browns. Like he's still
some sustainability problems.
You see, it's the same thing that happened in college. You see the gears grinding in his head, but the problem is Cleveland.
Takes him too long to make a decision.
Yep, Cleveland by far has the worst line of scrimmage players on the defensive side of the ball of any NFL team, and they know it too. It's why they moved guys like Emmanuel Ogbah all around, and it's why they've basically.
Did they just promote Carl Nassib?
Yeah, like Carl Nassib's basically like a starter now. Like it's not good. Like Danny Shelton's like backdooring outside zone plays, and that's like their most explosive way to get negative yardage on the defensive side of the ball. I want to see what they do against a real defense, and I know that's everyone's take, but like Carson Wentz is still pausing. Like that's the biggest issue. You can't hesitate in the NFL, man. I'm sorry. You aren't going to have the offensive line to get away with that. Like everything is just timing based.
Is there a quarterback
who's fixed that?
Who hesitate? No. Not fixed it. Although maybe that's a good question too. Who is good, and it doesn't have to be now. Could have been like past 10 years, past 15 years, past 20 years. Who hesitated but was good?
I think like a guy like Cutler does, but I don't know if you count that as good. Like he's gonna pause.
I counted it. I counted it as good. I think his peaks were good. I think his peaks were good.
I think Carson Wentz can like do that, but like even like Chicago's entire offense is basically structured around like, hey, we're not even gonna have like deep routes on like first and second down because we don't trust Jay Cutler to throw that. So
yeah, well, I mean, if you've got Alshon and Brandon, right, B. Marsh back when Cutler was good.
Yep.
And I don't know, Martellus Bennett in one of those years. Like a quarterback who pauses and allows the defensive backs to catch up. That's what those receivers are for, right?
Yeah. But the problem is Philly doesn't have those receivers, man. You know what I mean? Like
I know exactly. I'm just spitballing. Okay, who's fixed it? Has anyone fixed it?
No.
Did Jimmy G fix it?
I can't tell you, to be honest. I need to go back and watch that film. Yeah, because I watched that live, and there was a bunch of weird stuff going on, and there was just like a lot of misdirection. So it was kind of hard to isolate him. But yeah,
no one else fixed it.
I don't think so, and that's what I wrote in my Carson Wentz piece. Was like, dude, he has this trait, and I've never seen this trait work in the NFL. Like it's guys like Jay Cutler, and Jake Locker. You know what I mean? Like it's guys like that, and it's like it either ends up being you're a high variance quarterback, or you're not being or you're like a guy who can't be on the field because you're a liability. So,
have you sent these takes to Eagles Nest?
Oh,
they've been flexing all week.
Look, listen, were they camping out in your mentions too?
No, they weren't in my mentions.
Oh,
I just been seeing them tweeting
out in my mentions. They camped out in my mentions.
Oh,
man.
Really?
Oh man, it was like 80. Like Carson Wentz, you would have thought Carson Wentz won the Super Bowl, boy. I swear to God. You would have thought Carson Wentz won an FBS game. Like, damn.
By the way, I'm cheering for the Hawkeyes this weekend. I will resign myself to that.
Oh, absolutely. I turned on. I've somehow caught North Dakota State's both of their games in like the fourth quarter in like overtime, and they've won both of them somehow. They beat like Charleston Southern, and then they just beat Eastern Washington. Unfortunately,
wasn't that like an overtime one too?
Yep, both of them were like overtime wins, and I was so ready to just see the bison tears, but I wasn't able to reap the rewards of that. They did have a close up of a guy who had a surrender cobra in the Fargo Dome. I believe that's what it is, right? The Fargo Dome.
Yes, Fargo Dome.
And like the way the stadium seats are constructed is like there's like basically a person's pair of shoes were poking out like this of the side of his head on the TV shot, and it was the Pete Carroll Nikes. It was the Air Monarchs, and I was
no.
like, "There's nothing more Fargo, North Dakota than this picture right now." Just like,
brutal.
oh my god, my FCS team is gonna win is gonna lose in overtime, and here's this person behind me sitting in Air Monarchs. I was like, wow,
that's crazy. Okay, you had a Carson Palmer take?
Yeah, he's washed.
He's done.
Yeah.
Is Delhomme syndrome or?
I don't know if it's Delhomme. I wouldn't go to that extent, but like he clearly isn't Carson Palmer. And the problem is that Arizona Cardinals offense demands Carson Palmer. So like either they're gonna have to switch up that whole thing and basically like go Kansas City Chiefs last year, and they're like, hey, wait, we're gonna switch our offense around and we're gonna like design to go through this guy, and that this guy is gonna be David Johnson, or you're basically gonna see just a worse version of the Arizona Cardinals this year.
All right, a couple questions then, unrelated but also related. Tony Romo, Phillip Rivers, Hall of Fame. Just real quick.
I don't think they get in.
Not whether or not you think. Should they?
I would rather have Phillip in than Romo. But
I'm fine with that.
But I'd be cool with either. Like, you could make the case for it, and I wouldn't argue. I'd be like, yeah, okay, that's cool.
Yeah. Eli, Hall of Fame?
No, but he's going to get in. He has rings.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that he shouldn't get in, but he will. Okay. But Eli, obviously Hall of Very Good, right?
Yeah, like Hall of like memorable moments. Like there's like I don't know. You could say guys like you say Carson Palmer, and you have to pull off like one game, right? Can you pull off a game where you like think of Carson Palmer? Like you could think of like Eli Manning moment.
So this is where this was all leading to, right? Is Carson Palmer good enough for the Hall of Very Good? His career, right? He's got like 3 Pro Bowls, but his Pro Bowl years were fantastic. His other years,
yeah, but they were like separated by time, too, which is kind of
yeah, they were.
So like, I don't. No, Carson Palmer not Hall of Very Good. No, stay healthy.
Oh man,
stay healthy in your peak. I'm sorry, stay healthy in your peak. Don't look. This is Carson Palmer is basically the human tale of, hey, idiot, don't get traded to the Oakland Raiders. And he broke that rule. And now he has to live with that. He has to live with that for the rest of his life. So he deserves it. You know, I'm not sorry. Sorry, I'm not sorry.
All right, so who is Hall of Very Good? Your estimation, not like if you thought there was an induction committee. Like right now, NFL starting quarterbacks, who's in the Hall of Very Good?
Let me think. Phillip Rivers.
And we're projecting in the future, right? So we're saying like Russell Wilson's probably Hall of Fame. That's my take. Yeah. Russell Wilson's probably Hall of Fame. Drew Brees is probably Hall of Fame, right? I think that's gonna be a pretty easy call. Is Matt Ryan Hall of Very Good? If he had more, what was it, 2013? If he had more 2013, he would be. I don't think he is. I
don't think he is right now either. Cam Newton, he's probably like Hall of Fame guy, right?
Yeah.
If he continues to do what he's doing. If Alex Smith keeps it up for a couple years, I think he could be Hall of Very Good.
That'd be quite a step up. That's an interesting career.
Yeah, that'd be a super weird career. Fitzpatrick's not Hall of Very not good, to be honest.
Yeah.
So we're not gonna put him there. Cousins is trash. Cutler's too erratic. I think Stafford, if he continues to like improve, but I have no idea if that's gonna be something.
That's fair.
I don't have no idea if that's gonna work out. Flacco is gonna be like that with right?
Man, I don't know.
Point to a moment. You can point to a moment though. Like you can point to
but I mean, like his peak is the most Terrell Davis version of the Terrell Davis argument, right? He had one incredible half year. The rest of it's like, I don't know, man.
That's fair. He got paid though, and he got paid twice. Like he's still getting paid. I think people forget that. It's like this Baltimore team's gonna be bad, and the problem is Flacco's like new extension just started.
Whew. Legitimate question. Should Darrelle Revis's contracts get their own Hall of Fame plaque? Darrelle Revis obviously a Hall of Fame, but should his contracts get their own Hall of Fame plaque?
I'm cool with that because I looked at who like the next highest paid guy was, right? And I think it's like the dude is like 50 spots down from Darrelle Revis, like in terms of like how like the high like career earnings. Like Darrelle Revis by far has made more money than like any cornerback like by like double the amount. And game respect game, man. Game respect game.
All right. Any other takes you want to fire off, or are you good?
I'm good. I think I'm good.
Right.
Free. It's time to free Paxton Lynch though. I don't want to.
Yeah, free Paxton Lynch. I think I agree.
Yeah, I
free
just don't.
Derrick
I don't
Henry.
want to see Simeon. I don't want to see Simeon for the rest of the year. Like this is just personal enjoyment. I don't care if the Broncos win or lose games. I just want to see Paxton Lynch.
Free Paxton Lynch. Free Derrick Henry. I think we're good.
Let's get it.
And free Brett Hundley.
Free Brett Hundley.
Yeah.
Someone's just got to go down with the injury, man. We're one Carson Palmer injury away from Brett Hundley Hall. Very good.
Hey, Dusty, you got anything? Are there any mailbag questions for Justis that weren't already answered?
Well, there's a handful of people sniping at each other in the mailbag, but that's to be expected.
Classic mailbag.
I do have an email question from Matt in Wisconsin that kind of goes to a couple of things you guys were talking about. Matt writes, the Vikings may have discounted the future value of a first-round pick when they acquired Sam Bradford, and Arif, you called that out in your article. In economics, you might discount the future value of money due to the assumption of inflation. Could the ever-rising salary cap act as sort of an inflationary force in the NFL, in the sense that it could decrease the relative value of draft picks for teams that are willing to spend money as the cap rises?
No, so if a cap rises and you have a fixed contract on rookie contracts, that makes those rookie contracts even more valuable.
Yeah, I agree. I think the discount only comes in terms of liquidity. I think that the only reason there's a discount is because you can't use it now.
Well, there you go.
So,
on that note,
yeah.
Are free agent linemen any more reliable than drafted linemen relative to the value expended?
I don't know, man. It's so rare for a good lineman to hit free agency, right? I assume we mean offensive linemen.
Or, well, I mean, I'd probably
free agent
both.
defensive linemen are amazing.
Yeah, I was just, the only weird thing though is like, I think you can make the argument for interior linemen, right? But like bookends, like there's really no like non-garbage bookends that are like under the age of like 25. Like it really is like you basically have to have 3 years into it.
How old is Tyron Smith? 25?
Tyron Smith right now is like 25 or 26, I think.
Is he the only one?
So there's Tyron, like really if you're looking at like NFL bookends, like it's like Teron Armstead, Jake Matthews.
Oh yeah, he fixed it. I forgot about that.
Yeah, I mean he looked really bad week 1 though, but which is kind of yeah. So I'm like, was last year kind of a fluke or like what the hell is going on? Yeah, Tyron Smith is 25, so it's basically like Teron Armstead, Jake Matthews, David Bakhtiari, and then I think that's it unless Taylor Lewan is still under 25. But like everyone else is like absolute liability. So like I don't know, man. Yeah, Taylor Lewan's 25, so it's like those two guys.
So because it's an unknown versus a known bad thing, you'd rather draft a lineman, but which is more reliable?
I think a free agent is more reliable because I think for like the first 2 years that you're going to start an offensive tackle, he's going to be horrible, like absolute liability, period. Like those guys just aren't ready yet.
And hey, Eric Fisher's getting better, so yeah, maybe you're right. Are there any other questions?
One more from Emil Ramsvik on Twitter at ES Ramsvik. Who of the second-year players on the Vikings is the most valuable to them long-term?
Second-year players. Who are the second-year players? I should know this.
Stephon Diggs, Trey Waynes, Daniel Hunter.
Trey Waynes, Stephon Diggs, Michael Pruitt, probably a bunch of people they just cut.
Daniel Hunter.
Oh, holy crap. This is tough.
Right?
I just got it. So, TJ Clemmings, Stephon Diggs, Michael Pruitt, Danielle Hunter, Edmund Robinson, Eric Kendricks, Trey Waynes, Anthony Harris.
Oh, Eric Kendricks? Wow. That's a tough question.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Danielle Hunter. A, pass rushers are more valuable. B, Stephon Diggs is looking like he could be very good. Stephon Diggs looks like he might be able to put together a Pro Bowl seasons, plural. Danielle Hunter looks amazing. He looks phenomenal. Looks incredible. And pass rushers more valuable than receivers. So put that out there.
Yep. Force players.
You can't say that after what's been happening in the NFC and AFC South. Sorry.
Look. We can make rules.
Dante Fowler, bad. Pete
Falcons.
Hagman,
well, Dante Fowler was a non-force player. I was out here saying Dante Fowler was not going to be good when everyone said he was. At worst, he's Justin Houston or Khalil Mack.
At worst. Should they have made Dante Fowler an off-ball linebacker?
I think they should have made him a 3-tech. Like the problem was, he was best at Florida when he came in after Easley went out, when he was like that 3-tech type of guy. And then they're like, hey, we're just gonna like lighten you up and have you bend the edge, which like isn't like an inherent trait that people have. Like he's not. I think Dante Fowler, his last year in college, he had 3 sacks, other than when he went against ECU in the bowl game. So it's like, I mean, you drafted him 3rd overall to be a pass rusher. He had 3 sacks in the SEC.
Congratulations. So Vic Beasley, bad. Wattman, bad, and a bad person.
It's certified bad person. Alleged certified bad person.
Right. Committee approved, supposedly. Which, I mean, that hurts me. Also you, because, use your dude for a second. There's been other forced player washouts. Right? Bud Dupree doesn't count because he was a mid-tier, right?
Yep. We could talk about like Preston Smith. And
he's good though, isn't he? Isn't he good?
Yeah, he's good. He's really good. He's probably gonna be he's probably gonna be like Robert Quinn, I think.
Didn't Ryan Kerrigan wasn't he a force player too?
Yeah, Ryan Kerrigan is the most underrated guy in terms of production in the league, because that dude gets 8-9 sacks a year, period, and never sways from it. Just 8-9 sacks. He's never gonna have a 10-sack season, but he'll get you 8-9 sacks.
Oh man! All right. So it might be Daniel Hunter. That's crazy to me. I love that.
These are exciting times.
I was saying this whole offseason, someone should have traded a 1st-round pick for Daniel Hunter when you look at this pass rusher class.
And Vikings would not have done that.
I think that would have been underrating Daniel Hunter.
Properly rating him. No, I think that's going to do it. The Justice. I mean, there's forceplayers.com and, of course, bleacherreport.com, at JUMOSQ on the Twitters. Where else can we find your talents?
That's pretty much it. We have this little gambling podcast that we do on Sully's podcast, Sully Sparks on Twitter. It's called the I Hate Sully podcast. I believe you can find it on iTunes. So I'm on there like once or twice a week to talk about gambling lines and stuff. If you guys want to go check that out.
Well, that sounds appealing.
Right.
Something I can do as I'm eating my Sunday morning pancakes. Well, all right then. I think that's going to do it for episode 147 of Norse Code. Thanks again to simultaneously most and least valuable player, Justis Mosqueda, for being on the show again. Just a quick reminder, you can contribute to the show in any amount you would like if you feel that this extended commentary is worth anything to you at paypal.me/NorseCode. You can also become a recurring contributor like Peter Drummond did this week at the $3.50 level, the Loch Ness Monster level, we like to call it. And you can do that at patreon.com/NorseCode. We really appreciate the ongoing support of our ever-increasing listenership, and we look forward to a pretty phenomenal Vikings season. And however the season ends up, it'll be a pretty phenomenal year for Norse Code. You can check us out at thedailynorseman.com, the original host of this site. I don't know if we should really call ourselves the official podcast anymore, as they are building quite the portfolio. Vikings podcast community has grown quite rapidly this season, it seems like. All of a sudden, everybody thinks we're going to be good or something.
That's weird.
Yeah, weird. You can check out our Facebook page, facebook.com/Daily Norseman. That's all Norse Code stuff, oddly enough. And we're also on YouTube. Just search for Norse Code. The channel name is we haven't like paid for the fancy channel name, so just search for it and watch on YouTube if you like. If you subscribe to the channel, then you will immediately be, notified on your mobile device of when new episodes drop, much as if you were to subscribe on iTunes or Stitcher or wherever fine podcasts are aggregated. We also have a straight-up RSS feed that's linked at the bottom of every Daily Norseman post that includes an episode. Norse Code DN on the Twitter is managed by our producer James, who is, I guess, increasingly responsible for hosting the recap shows. So what's up, James? Waving at you through the internet. You can always send in email questions to the show as well. norsecodepodcast@gmail.com is the address there. And of course, there is our website, norsecodepodcast.com, which has links to all this stuff someplace on it, including our ever-rotating season motto, because we really as this episode kind of indicated, we're really struggling to determine the theme of the season, and the Vikings are not really doing us any favors in that regard. So I guess we're sticking with spoons out for now. Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, it's gotta be spoons out.
All right. So for Arif and James and Justis and all others here at Norse Code, I'm Dusty O'Connell. Spoons out. We'll see you next week.
Norse Code is the official podcast of the Daily Norseman SB Nation blog and is produced with cooperation from Pompous Jerk Productions. Pompous Jerk Productions. Attitude with attitude. The opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of their contributors and do not reflect official positions of the Minnesota Vikings, SB Nation, the Daily Norseman staff, or PJP. No information in this podcast should be construed as gambling advice. Please obey all local gaming laws.
Our formula is this. We go out, we hit people in the mouth.